I did put it up on my page. Google says I may want to put this video up on my front page so people know that I'm streaming. And I said, Google, I put it up there. Nah, 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 nah. I already beat Google. I beat Google. And I got beat today by Yale, by Oxford. I couldn't find anything on Fukushima in videos. A little bit, but shockingly little. If you type in Iran, you get just a big stream. Am I chatting? Gotta turn on my audio first. Hang on, folks. We're live streaming. I just want to make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure my mouth matches up with the words that are coming out of it. Yeah? You know what I mean, eh? You know, that's cool when that works together. When I'm talking and the words match up with my mouth, that's a cool thing. It's harder than you think it is. Let me see if I get this straight. You would get more radiation if you were closer to man-made radioactive contaminated areas than you would if you were further away from man-made radioactive material. Did they really need a PhD? You would get more radiation if you were on a plane with a smoke detector at 50,000 feet, getting a CAT scan and a dental x-ray while drinking a glass of water with 7,500 becquerels of potassium-40 in it, in a bathtub of ocean water and rocks releasing natural uranium-238 and natural radon with the plane curtains up, the sun shining in, eating a banana, than you will if you're standing in the middle of any spot where man-made radioactive material has fallen out. Even if you were in Chernobyl, you would get less radiation. Apparently. Oh, and you will get even less radiation if you're on a space station than if you stood in the middle of the Fukushima Daiichi military-industrial complex's directed energy weapons production facility. And they make isotopes for directed energy weapons. You know those cool lasers? You got to kill the planet to make them. And you cannot make uranium-238 yellow cake. And if you do make that, you don't want to be eating it. And if you do get radiation fallout, it was probably from nuclear testing in the 50s and 60s. But don't worry, all you got to do is lick that iPhone charger. It's trendy. Everybody's got to do it. You got to lick the fucking charger. Lick it. Bloop. Lick that charger. And smile. And radiation can't hurt you. I like that one. These are all the excuses, the apologists for the ocean killing machine. I mean, the ocean killing machine, the nuclear industry. And it's like pouring a spoonful of water into the ocean trying to measure the sea level changes. Where did he come up with this shit? And you would get more radiation if you smoked a cigarette than from Fukushima's 3 melted reactors fallout. Did I get that right? And, you know, all of that stuff, your body regulates it. It's natural, normal, insignificant. The Department of Homeland Security a couple of days ago said you would get 100 times more radiation from a banana than you would from eating fish in the Pacific Ocean. And a banana, if you eat a banana, you off-gas. That's potassium-40. It's natural. But if you were to eat fish with cesium in it, you wouldn't keep it in you. It's electrically charged. And you would accumulate it, bioaccumulate, and your body would attack it. So it's totally different. And the ocean is full of that. And the ocean is so full of it. And like once again, you really got to understand what's going on here. And I'm sorry to apologize to the hardcore people out there, but it's important that we paint the picture. Always. Of, say, a 4,000-mile river, and you're at the top of the river on St. Paddy's Day, and you got 1,000 pounds of dye, and you're going to dump it in the river. Pretty cool, right? You're going to have a big glowing river for a few hours with a single truckload, right? That's pretty cool. Imagine if that dye didn't dissolve in the water and kept its color for a few thousand years, and it was radioactive. But anyway, you're going to pour a truckload into the river every minute, 1,440 minutes a day, 1,000 pounds of dye that won't dissolve into the water, and so it'll show up in rain, it'll show up in all the estuaries downriver, and you're going to keep doing that every day, 1,440 minutes a day, every minute 1,000 pounds of dye into the river. And I want you to ask yourself something serious. This is important. At the end of 3 years of doing that, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 1,100 days, and you got in a helicopter and went down that 4,000-mile river after 1,100 days of doing that 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes a day, 1,000 pounds of dye that doesn't dissolve in the water, and how far down river would you have to go before you seen water natural again? You know, how many estuaries along that route would have dye in it? Ask yourself that question if you've done something like that. And because that's the minimum of what Fukushima is doing to the Pacific Ocean every day. And so as that started from day one, that has not stopped. And so that first day, if you just had that single release, which is what they tell you about all the time, and that's what they claim it is a single release, and that plume would make it over to North America. Right? And they're arguing about that now and fighting about it. And Woods Hole is out there saying it's like bananas. When it's not, of course. It's different radiation. And that plume is expected to come all the way back to Japan in 20 or 30 years. But it's actually St. Paddy's Day, every minute of every day there. And it's the same numbers as I told you earlier. And so that single plume in 24 hours, say you travel 24 miles, a mile an hour. The ocean actually travels a lot faster than that, 3 and 4 miles an hour, right across the Pacific. In many spots, a little quicker. But anyway, let's say at a mile an hour, 24 hours a day, St. Paddy's Day came out. So 24 miles offshore, it's all going to be green, right? Or glowing red, say, a dye. And you never stop pouring it in there, but it's radiated. And then the next day, on day 2, there was 24 hours, and every minute of every hour, and there was a truckload dumped into the ocean there. And this goes on for 1,100 days. Now, the ocean, the currents will come across at a mile an hour in 227 days, because it's 24 hours in the day, and that's 24 miles each day. And that's about the distance across the ocean. Now, at the same time, the ocean is full of life. It's a soup of life. And the best way to explain the ocean, I think, for people, besides the fact that I spent 14 years as a commercial diver, 6 hours a day, 300 days a year on the ocean floor. 6 hours a day on the ocean floor is 2 marathons a day, every day on the human body. And so I understand the ocean quite well, obviously. I understand currents extraordinarily well, trust me, because my life depended on it. And I ran, say around 14, 15 commercial dive vessels, big dive vessels, very expensive commercial outfits, and big operations with 10 or 12 dive vessels attached to big barges, and sustained that for years. But I'm just trying to paint a picture of what I see. And so I see St. Paddy's Day coming out, and that I know that this radioactive material is not going to lose, or is not harmless like a banana, like the experts were telling me. But now that I searched that myself, I understand that's actually a lie. And so when someone says banana now, I kind of snap. Or someone says it's like walking in the sunshine, I crack under the pressure, because it's an outright lie. And I came to them as experts to try to get some information. But everything they say after that, now I have to go look it up myself and double check and triple check it myself. And it's a little bit shocking. And now I'm where we are now. And so every day, for that 227 days, just that single 227 days, I want you to think about for a second. Think about the ocean. And think about the dye never stopped coming out. And it still continues to come out. But this is 3 years later. But it took 227 days for the first plume. If it had been by itself, would have got here. So wouldn't it stand to reason that if the plume never stopped coming out, and it continues to come out and coming over, that at 227 days is here, but it's still diluted with the water ahead of it. But the next 227 days, it's coming through itself. And the next 200... Now, at the same time, the ocean is a soup of life. You used to be able to take a drop out of the ocean anywhere and put it under a microscope and be just hundreds of thousands of millions of creatures. And if you took a drinking water, if you took a glass this size and filled it up with seawater, you would have 1 trillion creatures, and 75 million to 100 million of them would be phytoplankton. And phytoplankton is the very basis of the food chain. It's the very basis of the food chain, and it lives at the surface of the water. It breeds and populates at the surface of the water. And of course, when it rains out from the atmospheric fallout, it hits the surface of the water, the radiation. Now, if I dropped that radiation down in this glass, it would kill 75 to 100 million of those phytoplankton and all the other creatures. But if I dump that into another one, it would kill them too. And that isotope will keep on, or a radioactive particle, or atom, whatever you want to call it, will keep on killing till it runs its course. Which, if it's uranium, and it very well could be, because 97% of the fuel in the reactors is uranium. And what we have is such a big history of lies and manipulations from the industry, where they continuously equate radiation with banana. You can't believe anything they say. You just can't believe it if you're trying to understand the story. You can't go to them and actually get the truth out of them. It's impossible. And that's quite disappointing. And so, I want you to think about this site here has covered, and I've done the tally, I got some numbers for you. Just, in 4 months it's 160,000 comments. In 4 months it's 16,000 likes. In 4 months we've covered 8,000, and tonight will be over 8,000 headlines, or just shy of 8,000 headlines that we covered here. 8,000. And when you put into context how complicated it is with all the lies out there and how we've had to flush things out, that's what we do here. And so everybody that's been following this has quite the education, whether they realize it or not. And so the ocean to me is St. Paddy's Day every moment of every day on an enormous scale, because you have 3 melted reactors in Fukushima. 3 melted reactors, folks. There's 100% meltdowns. We have a 4th reactor where it blew itself apart, Unit 4, Reactor 4, Building 4. It had a detonation and 2 major fires. Unit 3 had a nuclear detonation. It's different than a nuclear explosion. It's a nuclear detonation, but very powerful. It's different than a hydrogen explosion like Unit 4. And if you look below the video, you'll see the links to pictures from TEPCO, and you can see the carnage yourself. And they're labeled. There's 99 downloads, zip files. And if you pick a subject, you'll get good pictures that the Fukushima 50 took. And Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. It was 1/3 the size of the reactor. It had a serious detonation. 600,000 soldiers were conscripted to go in and work that. Another 400,000 also worked there. 1 million people worked to get that under control. And this was the military machine they put at it. People who knew how to get the jobs done, right? People who had a mission. People who were conditioned. What they're doing in Fukushima, because it's so bad, is they're taking the homeless, the physically, mentally retarded, people who can't read, and people who can't write. And then you have the mob running that down there, the actual mob, the Yakuza. I probably pronounced it wrong. But the Japanese mob is running the show. And it's running into the ocean. No international communities have penetrated that place outside of a few propaganda machines like CBS, who put up videos of Unit 4 like it was brand new. And they got a structure over Unit 4, and it's supposed to be for the cranes and to stabilize the building. But the pictures they're showing you are not that. They can't get inside of Unit 1, 2, 3, or 4 and go to work because they detonated and they were full of radioactive materials and fission and products from the spent fuel pools that are missing. And Unit 3 ejected at its core. Unit 1 blew its top. It's 100% meltdown. It had cracked basements. They're hemorrhaging, pouring water in there constantly. And that's going through the basements directly into the ground. And for instance, we've seen numbers now where a few days ago they said it was 4 million becquerels, disintegrations per second. I think it was cesium-137 in trenches, which is the big water runoffs, the big cement water runoffs they have. They're actually like trenches, and they're for floods because they're on a mountain. And the mountain actually floods all the time and washes underneath from an old riverbed, and that flushes everything out into the ocean. And that's a lot of fissionable isotopes that are going out there, coming directly from pieces of rods and melted cores and melted fuel pools. And at the same time, this was aerosoled heavily. This continued to hemorrhage today. We don't know where the cores are, and so there's an urgency that we get this job under control. We start dealing with this for the threat that it really truly is, and we stop pretending that there's nothing happening. We got to get past that. Russia evacuated 7,500 communities. Russia still has 9,000 square miles that are off limits. 9,000 square miles. And there might be 30 or 40 people living there, and that's okay for them because they can use them as test subjects. And there's very little animals there. If you go and look up the studies, you'll actually find that people who went there and done studies over the years and put the nets up there to catch the little birds, the most vulnerable to radiation, they seen the insects, the birds, and everything with unbelievable manifestations of radiation illnesses like deformities, different eye colors, serious sores and cancers and tumors. We know that Fukushima has polluted the entire country of Japan alone, just that all on its own. They had to dig up 6 inches of topsoil through the entire country. So does Canada, so does the United States, because of the radioactive fallout, to even try to mitigate living in a very high radioactive environment. But because the ocean is St. Paddy's Day all the time, what happened is if it was just a currents at 1 mile an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 227 days, and that it never stopped coming over, it never stopped filling up. And these isotopes, as they fall to the bottom, these radioactive particles, will get brought back up in the cycle of the ocean. Now the ocean will bring that back up. It's still radioactive, and it'll just keep doing that. And what that does is it comes back up and it kills the phytoplankton at the surface, because that's how the phytoplankton gets its nutrients, and that's the very basis of the food chain, the very basis of oxygen from the ocean. 50% of the planet or better of the oxygen comes out of the ocean. Ocean comes into the coastline, slams into the coastline, liberates that oxygen. It's picked up through convection and evaporation and dragged in and distributed all over the planet. It's brought up into the tropospheres, in the upper troposphere and the lower troposphere, and it's distributed. There's an ocean there, a full ocean up above us. And so all this radioactive material, but it's not just Fukushima. The Pacific Ocean off California, off of San Francisco, where all those seals they're talking about are going to die off. All the pups are dying. They're 20 pounds instead of 50 pounds again this year. They're going to be dying off like crazy. They put 45-gallon barrels of radioactive materials right there. And then they turn it into a sanctuary. And they're wondering why the animals got all kinds of sore and losing all their hair. Everything looks perfectly, exactly like radiation sickness, but there's probably measles, Dana. And they've come out and propagated that. But why not say, hey, gee, you don't suppose it's the 45-gallon drums of radioactive material that's supposed to be in a sarcophagus? I mean, you think about all these nuclear power plants that are hemorrhaging into the Pacific Ocean, every friggin' one of them. You think about these 400 reactors on this planet, you think about everything on the Pacific Ocean is boiling 1 million gallons of water to do its job a minute. You're killing all the creatures in the water, and you have been for a very long time. They've done everything wrong that you could ever do wrong before they even started the job by killing, 1 million gallons a minute. And somehow that's green, and somehow that's environmentally safe. Somehow that's better for this planet. Yet if you go down and walk on the beach and pick up a rock, they'll come down and tase you. Give you a huge fine, confiscate your vehicle, traumatize you. But these useless maggots that feed off the taxpayer and destroy the every community where there's a nuclear reactor, the fuel pools are boiling off. and 20,000 liters a day into your community of radioactive friggin' material. Aerosol is invisible. You can't see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it or pick it up or look at it or walk on it or step on it. But that doesn't mean it's not there. That doesn't mean it's not harmful. That doesn't mean it's not supposed to be where the licensing agreement said in the sarcophagus till the end of time, does it? How is it that every nuclear plant can do whatever they fucking want with the waste? How can every nuclear plant on this planet just take it and go out in the ocean anywhere they want? Because they got a time limit when they got to get it off the boat. It's not like they can go out and say, oh, I'm going to dump it right here. No, they can only have it on the boat so long they're all going to get their doses. Of radioactive friggin' material. Oh, sorry, folks. Just want to make sure I was on. Because you know me, I can go and go and go. Here, let me kill the chummy on this. Well, we got to think about it. We got to deal with it. We can't hide away from it. We got to have a debate. We got to educate people. We got to get people's backs up against the wall. We got to push back. We got to hold people accountable. We can't let them get off of this banana routine and x-ray routine. It's like a background radiation of walking in the sunshine, Dana. No, it's not. It's completely different. And I resent anybody that say that, but they all say that. Every expert out there. If you go out right now, and you went out to Yale, and you went back to March the 11th, or March the 14th, I think is the earliest one you're going to find, and they're just going to lie to you and tell you about sunshine and bananas, and how we all got radioactive potassium in us, and we get a big dose of that over a whole lifetime routine. And if you go over to Harvard, you'll get the exact same thing. And if you go to Stanford, you'll get the same professors. And these were actually nuclear engineers. And that's what I've been doing the last couple of days, is grabbing all of that, because I'm not sure how I'm going to pull that one off, but I want to do a documentary of every major institution out there came out for Fukushima and told lies and fabrications and certainly misdirection. And none of them, and they all agreed with the people who really took it to the extremes, who equated it with bananas or getting a dental x-ray, or that it was harmless. Later in the conversation, when another speaker would come, oh, I agree with so-and-so statement there earlier, right? They wouldn't have to say it, but they would agree with that person. See? They would give them credibility. They would put them up on a pedestal. And it was always that way. If you got 4 or 5 panelists, one of them is going to come out with the bananas and the airplane routine. Now, airplanes are contaminated because they're flying through radioactive clouds all the time for so many years. The metal on the airplanes is very bad. Look at the USS Ronald Reagan, how they had to take the engines out of 12 helicopters. Radiation chick, Christina Consolo, had the people from the USS Ronald Reagan on her show, and they tell the story, don't they? Right? You can find those links below. You'll find Christina at Climate Viewers, and the links are below for that too, and lots of good people. Yeah, I heard of the golden rule, he who has the goal makes the rule, but they never heard of Dana. Because when it's my will against their will, I'm going to win. Because I'll create an army of hounds that will hound them till the end. I already have. I think we've got 160 videos on this subject or something now. Probably 120 or 30 live streams now. And a whole lot of little mini documentaries and infos. That's been re-uploaded probably say 1,000 times all over the internet. And stories wrote about it. We've inspired the Fukushima hounds. There's a chat room down below. Kate and Pasha and a number of people are really turning into something special. We got Miss Frill. We got a whole bunch of bloggers out there. Well, we have made a dent, period. Our narrative is everywhere now. This is us, right? A collective of everybody pushing back, which is very important, that we can't back down. And so it's very difficult to do what I do every night. It's difficult to get through, say, the 8,000 headlines that we've covered on this site. That's an incredible achievement. And it's only done because of the momentum we have. We keep the momentum going. And I don't know how we do it. I don't know how you folks do it. I don't know how you participate as much as you participate. But I do understand, right? Because that's why we're all here in the first place. Isn't it? Because we want to be. I don't think any of us, period, want to be where we're to. I don't think there's a single person here tonight that wants to be dealing with this. Would much rather it all just go away. But how do you turn off the tap at Fukushima? You can't look the other way, because this thing is going to slap you up the side of the head and really frig you up. You have to get the job done. You have to do what they done at Chernobyl. You got to try. We got to come up with a solution. We got 4,800 peer-reviewed academic studies published every day. We can take one single day, 4,800 professors and their students, and put them to work on dealing with some of these issues. It's really that simple. With all these telephone poles out there, if you put a windmill on top of each one of them, right? If you design a really efficient one and you put it up on top of all your telephone poles and tapped it in with your smart meters, you'd be pretty freaking, you wouldn't need nuclear power, which is only 3% of the entire planet's energy anyway. Stanford was saying Americans use about 20% of their power comes from electrical power. Well, that's a friggin' lie. Do you know how much... See, that's another one of the fables that the nuclear industry does. And by the way, every nuclear plant also bleeds into the ocean or the river. And then you got that floating dickhead from MIT the other day. He wants to put out a floating nuclear plant. I haven't forgot about him. Don't think I have. He's there. He's what got me going the last couple of days. I haven't stopped. I jacked everything from MIT's side about Fukushima, and I kept going. Yale, Oxford, Stanford, blah, blah, blah. I'm nowhere near Philly, C-SPAN. It's just, I don't know how I can't get through a day. I crash like a rock. I wake up and I'm at it again trying to catch up. It's unbelievable the pace I got going here now for over 4 months. I don't know how the frig I'm doing it, but I am doing it. Hi, Nuber Magic! Nuber Magic got jury duty. No, sorry, man. They got good donuts. You get good donuts, dear. You're laughing. We are live streaming, and we don't know what the hell is going on that time. We live stream most nights. It's been pretty rough the last couple of weeks for me, but we're still doing pretty darn good. And it's most nights around the same time, 7 to 8 o'clock, depending on how I'm feeling. Usually lately it's been around 8 o'clock, Pacific Canada time. So we've been at this now for 120 shows in the last 4 months or so. So we're pretty, you can kind of count on us. And that's just to keep the information flowing. Yeah, Nuber Magic, wait till they get a load of them, he says. Yeah. Yeah, you're a different person, like myself, You kind of get, your eyes are wide open and you're paying attention. So you're probably going to end up being a jury foreman or something. You say you want to be the jury foreman. Anybody volunteer? Because most people will never volunteer for it. You should volunteer for it, Nuber Magic. And you can make all the difference, man. Right? Your vote can put them in their places. Right? But most people are afraid to vote against the system, particularly when everybody else wants to vote one way. But if you got them bent over, you could stick it to them. You read 15 years, 18%? Yeah, you're talking about American Power, James Beck, I think. Illusion is over. He said, we don't need drugs anymore. We got radioactive isotopes now. Snort some of that shit. Smoke some of that crap. Yeah. See how you're feeling in the morning or in a couple of years. Now, you think about, this is RSOE put up whip today. Now it's gone. Yeah? I got no idea. Hi, Ketzer. Lori, illusion is over. Nuber's going to plug his channel in the jury duty. James Beck. I like it. There's no gold to back up the currency anymore. It's make-believe. That's right. Well, I mean, your money is printed by a private corporation. Don't forget that part. Right? The Federal Reserve is a private corporation, but what does that mean to you? They got corporate personhood, for starters, which means they got human rights, so you can't infringe on their human rights and find out shit about them, because they got human rights, which are an illegal amendment to the slavery law, right? To the Constitution. The amendment to the Constitution for the slavery law originally was to free slaves from an oppressive government. Now is being used by corporations to oppress the sovereign people. Because they put an amendment on the slavery law in increments over decades to give corporations corporate personhood. But what it means to me anyway, what it means to me is that they can just go bankrupt, right? And another Federal Reserve opens tomorrow and they start printing money again. See, it's not the federal government that's in the hole, it's a private corporation. And all they got to do is go, you can't do jack shit. I'm going to go bankrupt. Fuck you. I take my planes and money and fly away last week. The government helped me fucking do it. I gave them planefuls of money. And then we closed shop. Now we're going to take that money, open up another private Federal Reserve, and you'll find it right in there in the yellow pages, right alongside of Federal Express, another private corporation. Well, that's just the way it'll always be unless you actually push back. You can't count on Yale. You can't count on Stanford or Oxford or the academics at MIT or the Commonwealth Club, anywhere, to tell you the truth, to do the right thing, to be the shining light. They're the opposite. Hi, Pasha. Fed's owned by the Queen and family. Yeah, I agree with you. Nuber Magic 2012. I think you're probably right. I thought that I was on drugs, but I could be wrong. And my writer, Franz, says anything on paper is only worth the paper it's written on. Indeed. Kennedy wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. He actually put a law in effect that is still in the books. Yeah, well, you know, we're worried about Fukushima, but I'm just saying, like, with the Federal Reserve, to me, it's friggin' irrelevant because it's just a private corporation, and all they got to do is go bankrupt and open up another private corporation. Americans can't go bankrupt. See? Because the Federal Reserve itself is not based up on anything. They're just printing money, and they kept an illusion alive for 100 years. And so let's move on. And Irina Earl says Radchick was saying that the Australian plate is cracking and separating. And she's a great writer and great videos, folks. You'll find links below to her. She's worth backing up and supporting. She's a great researcher. She's authentic. She works at the institutions. She has her degrees. She's very articulate, and she's not to mess around with. She's smart as a whip, and she's here to get a job done, and is not taking no from an answer from anything or anybody, and that's why we love her to pieces. You know, as an activist, as a righteous lady and a fantastic soul, we always try to support her. I give her a hard time sometimes, but I always try to include that it's just because we're a little bit more familiar than most people be with her. We might be more liberal, saying things, shouldn't use those words. Left, right, center, middle, far left, far right, extreme left, extreme right. What kind of a ideology do you believe in? Pol Pot or Mao or you know, if you go down that religious march, I got a speech there for that stuff too. I got them all there. A big speech. I'm not left and I'm not right and I'm not middle and I'm not center or far left or fucking far right or friggin' left. Megan Rice, freed Megan Rice. Thank you. Fucking right. We gotta stick it. You know, just for so many of these victims, Sister Jackie Hudson. You know, there's so many victims out there that went out there and protested and then got fucked over by the system that is supposed to guarantee that right and that ability, and that, you know, the industry has never done anything to do its job. They just say they do. The media all has to tell you the same story. ABC and NBC and BBC and CBC and ABC and all these other stupid, idiotic Foxes and CNN and MSNBC, they have to all tell you the same story, by the same people and from the same pictures and the same videos. They all have to do that or they can't exist. The minute one of them clashes with another one, the illusion will fall apart on them. And so your media that you put all your faith and your trust into is the biggest lying machine on the planet. The most stupidest, idiotic. It's a PR machine. Every one of them got degree upon degree upon degree in public relations, and their job is to sell it. That's why people advertise with them, is because they're good sellers. But they're actually machines. They all work together to enhance each other synergistically. And so if AP, Associate Press, or Reuters put out a picture and a story, all the other sites aggregate it automatically with little bots. You don't have to go there and click and say, I put that up on my page. It does it automatically. So everybody on this planet gets the same picture, the same paragraphs, the same author for big stories immediately. And what that does is you can't have a conversation with anybody, that's not paying attention, because they all read the same story, and that's good enough for them. They didn't look any deeper. They didn't lift up any rugs to see how much dirt was swept underneath it, or even go look for an alternative narrative, which is the most important thing you'll ever do if you're interested in the subject, is look for another narrative. And if you've ever been interested in the subject, you know that the minute you went out there and started looking at it, you would find other narratives that you never thought about. And so when you think about the ocean, you never thought about St. Paddy's Day all day, every day, hemorrhaging, radioactive dye that you can't see, but you could if you let me take your vision for a second. When that hit the coastline, there's a link below of Health Canada. I went out there in a plane, and every 15 minutes took a sample. And it was a radioactive cloud. And that lingered over here like the Asian Trans-Pacific pollution lingers, like pollution lingers anywhere, where it can linger for weeks and months before a front moves it somewhere else. But it will deposit a lot of it. Think of a snowstorm hanging over your state and provinces and cities and countries for a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even 7 months. But think about that one to the environment, so it just doesn't stop falling out right away, because it goes into the upper, lower atmospheres easily. Because you think about how big of the particles and pollutants that are coming out of their of automobiles and everything else, that shows up in North America and gets included into pollution models. Yeah, hi Ron Flash, thank you. Once again, Megan Rice, what she done was one of the most courageous things imaginable, where she really took it to the level that it should have been taken, and where she should have been commended because she exposed so much by doing that, right? Just an outright blatant farce is what's going on at these places. It's a leeching the money and destroying your communities. Wherever you put one of these things, you're a huge risk of radioactive materials being released into your community because of all the maintenance. And these people don't, they don't know what to do with radioactive waste. They're still trying to build a geological depository to put the stuff in. A whip didn't work out. One release, and they got to get the fuck out of there. One accident, they can't get back in there. Just like I told you, right? They came out and demonized the shit out of me and still do. But I don't lie to you. I don't fabricate to you. I don't misrepresent anything. I don't make anything up. You can't make up the 8,000 headlines. Why would you even need to try? They're devastating. And just, why do they say radiation has a half-life? Well, that's to fool you, trick you, and deceive you, and manipulate you. Why not say it's got a 300-year life, but it loses some of its energy every, 20,000 years or whatever, or every 30 years or whatever, right? But it's still radioactive, because that's exactly what the issue is. It's still carcinogenic 10 times. So the rule, it could be a lot more than that, but the rule of thumb is a radioactive decay is times 10, so a half-life of 30 years is actually 300 years, right? See what, we spend so much time having to apologize for their jargon, because their jargon is created to confuse the shit out of you. Right now, if you think there's no issue, or you got someone you're arguing with or trying to have a debate with, from here on ever after, you should always start the debate off with, well, the EPA is now including 7,400 becquerels a cubic meter of cesium-137 in your drinking water, in your bathtub, in your swimming pools, in your lakes, in your rivers, and all the water you're growing your food out of is radioactive man-made. Where do you think that fucking came from? You think that just grew out of his arse or something? Do you think that came out of the scientist's nose when they blow their noses or something? What do you think 7,400 becquerels a fucking kilogram means? They're not going to mention there's 2 or cubic meter of water means. Well, you can't have cesium without the strontium. There's 30 times more. That's 225,000 becquerels in the same cubic meter of radioactive isotopes. Should never be on the friggin' planet. It's the opposite of what the sun does. The sun creates elements, nuclear reactors destroy it. Their isotopes are completely different. They got nothing to do with anything on this planet. There's nothing familiar on this planet with that. There's nothing on the moon. There's none of these isotopes are on the moon. There's none on Mars. There's none on Saturn. You're not going to find these isotopes in anywhere in our universe that we know about. These are not natural elements. These are man-made elements. There's around 260 man-made elements. Or indigenous, insignificant, 1/10,000th of a second of a life. It can't even make it 1,000th of a millimeter off your table, but it's still radioactive because that's just the universe. But it's not man-made. It's natural. It's universe. It's the elements of life itself. And so why put them into the conversation? Because glass of water got 7,500 of those. And so if someone says, oh, you got 1,000 becquerels of cesium in your drinking water, oh, that's okay. I got 7,400 becquerels, 7,500 becquerels of potassium-40, because a lot of people just can't wrap their mind around these are completely different. And so every scientist and every apologist out there is going to use that jargon. It's going to tell you it's like eating an apple or getting potassium-40 deservedly in your body, and over your lifetime you get a few rims, and shut the fuck up. I would slap somebody right up the mouth if they said it to me. I'd punch them right in the fucking head. I'd bash a chair over their fucking heads. They apologized, and I'd give them a chance to apologize. They didn't apologize. I beat them to fucking death right on the spot. Well, I wouldn't kill them, but they'd fucking try. I got no time for it. These are not humans. Anybody that would go out and equate radiation, man-made radiation, with a banana, or walking in the sunshine, or with a dental x-ray, we're talking about ingesting radioactive hot particles. Radioactive particles, let alone the hot ones. And there's a difference. There's a huge difference. And the difference of ingesting them is huge too. It's unbelievable. It's unimaginable. And the ocean is filled with that. It's filled already. Every 227 days, the ocean is full of plumes. And those plumes just doesn't stop. It just never fucking stops. It just won't stop. I'll get mad here. I gotta watch myself. It just won't stop. It they won't even fucking try. They got the mob down there running a bunch of homeless. You think that's going to fucking solve some issues? You think that's going to fix anything? You think they're going to get it together at some point? They're running out of homeless, for fuck's sakes. The entire country is destroyed. It's sterile. In another few years, that entire country is going to be sterile. There's 6 out of 10 children tested had diabetes, for fuck's sakes. Tokyo, 300,000 becquerels a kilogram here. 1 million becquerels a cubic meter there. Where children are standing up, millions in the playgrounds, a cubic meter, square meter. Children sit down in a square meter. They're sitting in 1 million becquerels of cesium. They're not counting the plutonium, uraniums, the strontiums, and all the other hideous creatures that are out there. There's 3,100 out there. 260 are natural. But most of those 260 lifespan, like the worst ones are like 4 days or something. These fuckers from man-made radioactive material, and there's not very many like that that are natural. These are just extraordinary chunks that have in our planet. But like, if you go walking down the road, you're not going to see anything like that. Well, you can't see it anyway, it's invisible. But the whole point being is that why do they have to lie about every single aspect of nuclear topics? And we've covered 8,000 headlines. A lot of these headlines were based on the same story, but not many. The majority of headlines are different headlines and different stories. That's incredible. And think about the tsunami. That buried all the news for the first year. You couldn't see nothing. It'd be just 600 stories of tsunami and 1 story of Fukushima in somebody's page. Well, if you went over to Yale, you wouldn't find fucking anything. If you went over to Oxford in UK, you wouldn't find... UK's got Sellafield. Sellafield nuclear facility is hemorrhaging 8 million litres a day into the ocean. Hanford, not that far away from me, poured 450 billion gallons directly into the soil. That's hemorrhaging directly into the river, into the ocean, always has been. They were doing studies on humans in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s and the 70s unimaginable studies where they're injecting up to 500 and 600 pregnant women, like MIT and Stanford, pregnant women with radioactive isotopes, digging up their corpses later and checking for extra cancers. I kid you not. Sick and demented, the twistedest, most dirtiest friggers on the planet. MIT and Stanford, they're fucking monsters. Yale and Harvard is really just something else too. The Cloak and Dagger and Skull and Bones. Yeah, friggin' hard cases. Radiation doesn't discriminate. Illusion is over. Right, illusion is over. Hey, we made it up to 44 minutes. I meant to say when I started off tonight, probably not going to be a very long show tonight because I just had my head stuck into that shit all day, all night, all yesterday. In particular, yesterday, hardcore. Today I got a few hours break. I went to town, but I got rained out and came back out of it. I drive a tricycle, so I don't care. I got heated grips, big windshield. I'm okay. I got lots of gear. It's cool. Trust me. Little electric one, right? So nice and quiet. I don't take any lectures with me anymore. I don't have any music with me. Well, sometimes. Just all original music from my site. Well, most of those songs I got on the player right now is not on my site. There's other songs they have put up. The site is for my site out front. My main site is supposed to be for the artists. And there's a couple of thousand of them there, and they're handpicked, and they might not have been perfect then, but they will be at some point. The majority, 90-something% of them will be awesome. The majority of them already have CDs and everything else. This is original music, has no memories attached to it, and it's just as good as anything you're going to hear on the radio, like their finished products. But you can go to their sites and link over from my site. When you click on their video, go to their site, and you can check out all their other stuff too. And rather than listen to corporate music and the same friggin' song and dance your entire life, elevator and cars and everywhere else, everybody got the same music except for Dana. I don't listen to none of it. All of my music, everything I got is original. It has memories that I attach to it only. And, you know, I'm not going to hear it in an elevator. I'm not going to hear it anywhere else. And that's very cool. And these are very talented people. And they were usually, you find 1 or 2 artists a day. And you go through a couple of 100 artists, and some of them would really frig you up. Like they should never be allowed to make videos. They're that fucking bad. Just like you rip your shit out of your, what the frig was that? But I used to find 1 or 2 artists a day, and that was a way of me escaping. I was looking for vocals, right? And then talent after that was irrelevant. I just wanted to get them in my favorites, and then over the years, which is what I do, I every time they put up a new song, I steal it. So I have a massive, unbelievable collection. And you can go over to their site and they got all kinds of original artists that they like, that they found. And then you can go through their music too and find some really cool stuff and download it. It's a very cool thing. Trust me, it's very cool. And that's written from their heart, you know, from their soul, a part of their life. It's a story most of the time. Very clever, very talented people. It's amazing how I get lost in my music. Well, I don't get lost. I'm able to focus and think because I don't have the clutter from the commercial music shoved into me. Right? It doesn't have the connotations. Okay, well, we'll call her a night, 47 minutes, but I'll come over and say goodnight to everybody right here, right now. I'm on it. Good night, Kate. I know Kate. I know it. She says, Dana, I know every day. And Kate's got Fukushima Hound's blog. You'll find a link below right away, folks. And that's a good spot to go check out. And you'll find all kinds of community and people trying to have a debate and a conversation. And there's t-shirts over there. That's worth checking out. Some really good work, by the way. And I will, you know, I'm going to schedule a show and for the Fukushima Hounds and cover that site for you very soon. Kate and Pasha and everybody else that's putting their time and energy over there. That's what it's all about. You know, you got to create your own communities. You got to push back. You got to speak out. You got to use your voices. James Beck, France, Sean Ainholm, Original Punisher, everybody, Lori, Irina Rell, Grandma Goldie. We need a diving story, Dana. Okay, Grandma. I'll do that for you before I give it up. I'll just take a few more people and we'll do a little diving story. I'm not sure what they'll talk about. Standing Foot, France Glass, Pasha, hi. Illusion is over. Nubru Magic keeps a music playlist on his channel. You'll find links below my video if you're watching this later, folks. Nubru, Nibirumagick 2012. And if you can't find it, there you go. Just type that in, you'll find him. He's a blogger like me. Hey, Rad Chick's there. Hi, Rad Chick. You're welcome, sweetie. We really like what you do. Obviously, we push you all the time. Miss Milky is out there somewhere. DJ Bizzle, Sean, Alex, Adam, Candace, Paul. Yeah, well, there you go. That's good. Well, 8,000. We covered it over. Well, I didn't cover any headlines tonight, so tomorrow night or the night after when it does next live stream, I'll actually crack 8,000, because a lot of times I covered headlines the same, and so when I was putting it all into a folder, you already got that one in the folder, and that's how I ended up with that number. I'm about 7 shy, 8 shy or whatever, of 8,000 headlines. That's crazy. I had no idea. I thought it was like a couple of thousand or something. I know it was a lot anyway, but I used to always say a couple of thousand. France, Sargent, Megan Rice, Kathy, Kerry. We'll do a little diving story coming up, and we'll jump Slacker, 99ers, Ketzer, Paul, Aqua, Lighter Side of Genocide, Toxic, everybody, Adam. Let me do a dive story. Here we go. I don't know what. Wolf Creek. I got you. That's all I'm getting in here now, folks. Shining Home Ratchet again. Of course, we give her extra because we know how busy she is. And so I'll end up on a dive story. I tell you the stories how. I'll just go back to a few good laughs. That I always like. I always tell these stories anyway. One of my favorite tricks, because I ran a lot of fleets, was the new diver on the boat. It didn't matter whether he was military. It didn't matter. Well, he would come from a very wealthy family and had just amazing amount of gear and training, and they spent $25,000 on courses. And you get them out and get them on the ocean, and you find out what they're really like. And we had this guy come out, and he had around 7,000 hours on diving. Most of it was like chasing bikinis around in the Cayman Islands, basically. But anyway, sent him down with a bag to go to work, and he came back up and offered me $100 to go down and get his bag and his gear. He left it there. So like, it wasn't a job for everybody, obviously. And because I ran the fleets, it was about 1 in 100 divers could stick it out for the whole trip, the first trip. And so many people would quit. Well, back in the day, it was pretty rough too. You got to realize things have changed a lot since then, right? And it's shocking when I think about it. I had to come up with a good story. I wouldn't know what to say because there's so many stories. I remember going down one time on the ocean floor, and I seen this big, like, little nuclear explosion where a halibut had grabbed this octopus and he was bouncing him across the ocean floor, I guess, or spinning him. It's hard to tell because of all the sediment. It's like little nuclear explosions because of the way the ocean floor is. And I was already spooked because I get spooked when I'm in mud, and sometimes I wear like 120 pounds of lead and no flippers, and so you're bouncing around on the ocean floor like a man on the moon. Literally, I always figured I'd be perfect guy for space because I truly got it down. I have over 10,000 hours logged, and I dove every harbor on the coastline of Canada except for about 10, and I wreck dived. Probably have about 4,000 or 5,000 hours just wreck diving in my spare time. Well, that's because I always had boats, $250,000, $500,000 boats, and so I could it was easy for me, right? But my favorite stories are always the guys who comes out on the ocean, his first day there, he goes down the ladder, and he would always come right back aboard the boat and adjust gear and pull their face mask off. And I got sick of it. And so I would go out and hang my ass over the ladder and try to squeeze one on top of their head, and I would quite a lot of the times. And they would come up, and my arse is hanging over that ladder, and they would go right back down. And I would stay there because a lot of them would go down and wait and then try to come back up again. But I've seen people come up an hour later and just blow up laughing as soon as they come out of the water because they were laughing the whole time they were on the ocean floor. They were shocked they had never been treated like that before. It wasn't disrespectful. It was just that if you're good enough to make it out there onto the ocean on one of the boats, then you're good. You're good enough to get the friggin' down there and get to work. But most people weren't. That was and so I would do the lighter side of it. But my big thing was I would train everybody to run the show, just in case something happened to me, right? And quite often did. And I was a surgeon too, on top of that. And I was I scarred some people, I'm sure. But we would get a lot of stabs, wounds out there from sea urchins. And the sea urchin, it's calcium. It's got full of spines. And it'll stab unbelievable carnage it can do to you. You can put it right through your computer. Like it's like a weapon. If you took a sea urchin and put it in a pillowcase, and you had Japan was invading you, and you went out there and smacked a couple of them with a sea urchin in a bag, holy fuck. You would immobilize anything on this planet. It's like one of the worst things imaginable. Fuck, I shouldn't be telling you that stuff, I suppose, but... Because I've seen people fall on these bags. I've had surgery on my hands 5 different times to get these spines out of my hands. And they've went right through, one's still here right now, he went through and out the other side of the bone. Went right through my bone and out the other side. And I had surgery on both sides, but it's still really bad there. So we made it up to 54 minutes. Oh yeah, the story of the octopus and the halibut. And yeah, when he broke clear, the octopus was swimming away. He was silhouetted and he was missing a leg. And it was a perfect silhouette for just a moment there. And at the same time, on the other side of the cloud was this 80, 90-pound halibut. And he had the leg hanging out of his mouth. And he was perfectly silhouetted. And in the middle of it was like a little nuclear explosion where they had separated because the ocean is... And that's so vivid in my mind, these little... that when there's these confrontations out there. Every day I would have 80, 90, 100 feet. Fish would chase me around. And there's things that I'm doing out here that I can't talk about, and I really want to talk about, but I can't talk about. I can't give it away, afraid somebody go out and steal. But it'll be, the next month or so, things are going to really... I know I've been saying that for a while because we've been doing everything. The studio still go, I guess we're in there... I'm pretty stiff. I'm having a hard time getting back and forth. I've made a lot of runs up there now, so I'm getting used to it. But it takes me an hour to get there on my three-wheeler, and I can't drive in automobiles. It destroys me. It puts me back in my hospital bed for days. And that's something I lived with for 14 years. I can't drive in an automobile, right? And that's really freaks me. And likewise, what I'm trying to do here basically is I decided, I'm going to go at this for the rest of my life, and that I want to get answers. I'm not interested anymore in trying to find answers from these people because it's not possible. And so the only way to get the answers is if I go do it myself, unfortunately. And I can't do it myself, but I do have, I understand the coordination involved in that and how to go about it and what's necessary. And I'm trying to come up with creative ideas of how I can do this. And I think, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Ultimately, I got to replace Woods Hole. We got to replace Woods Hole. We got to replace the academics. We got to, once again, what Christina Consolo is doing, right, is one of the very few people out there with that kind of knowledge and experience and expertise and actual training and the pedigree and able to handle it and understand it and not get intimidated or manipulated, right? And that's a treasure, see? And that's the problem. We only got a few of these types of people that we can count on. And so we are forced to do this ourselves. And so we are here every night and in a hackle, so to speak, after almost 8,000 headlines amongst everything else. And so we've been called conspiracy theorists and lawyers and manipulators and everything else, but nobody's actually ever proved that. We've never done it on purpose, and nobody's are saying what we've done. So in my opinion, and I'm very careful, I have made mistakes, but we have corrected them immediately. That's what we do, right? That makes us stronger, makes us better. We don't ninny ourselves to death, but that's what makes us stronger. And so I'll end it on this, is that nutrition. Everything's about nutrition. Get away from your GMO. You can't put that in your body. You can't chew gum. You can't drink pop. Stop doing that, right? Just stop it. And eat healthy. It's not that much more expensive. Give it a try. Eat less, because you get 10 times, well, you actually get around 100,000 times more energy. So it might cost you a little bit more. You'll eat less because you're getting way more. And you'll feel so much more better for doing that. So eat organic, find organic, source it out yourself, and get them nutritions in you. Do the things that get the nutrition in you. That's what you in you. That's no slang for. I come from a little community with 170 people, and we got our own kind of dialect. Still got no cars, and so don't ignore that. I apologize for having that accent. Not that I do, but some people use that to beat me up. What I'm trying to, before you end the show, is that you got to learn, and I tell you all the time, but I want to include it again, and it was that you got to learn to eat healthy. We had an event. We can't change what happened, but we can change the future, and we will, because that's the destiny. That's the reality. We worked out, it was all lies. They lied on purpose. They continue to lie, so they have lost the ability to have the debate, because they have lied so much. None of them are qualified to have a debate because they have a history of lying, in other words, right? And so we are the debate, and the debate is real, and we are not going away. We're just getting more articulate and teaching more people and informing more people and each other and coming up with our solutions. And that's what we should do the next show about, is solutions. 59 minutes. I knew I could make an hour if I tried hard enough. We'll catch everybody tomorrow night. Google's probably going to make me sign out 2 times like it does every other night, but I'm going to wave and it'll do a little jump. But yeah, so tomorrow night I'm going to cover the rest of the headlines from the last show, because there was 14 reactors at Fukushima that went into heart attack mode, right? And I learned that name today too, and I forget it already. Damn it. The Daini? I'm trying to pronounce it like they do. But a lot of these guys pronounce it wrong, for Christ's sakes. Oh well. Here we go. Maybe Google. So there was 14 damaged reactors, 3 melted 100% for sure. Big releases and a couple more, and we'll flush that out a little bit more tomorrow night to crack the old 8,000. Pretty bloody cool, you ask me. Pretty amazing, man. That's amazing. You folks are amazing. I'll catch you tomorrow.